This is the Ebony article that had the caption, Cleaning Up in More Ways Than One. It's from the February 1976 edition when I was president of student government at A&T, and it talked about North Carolina students start successful janitorial firm to help finance education. And it wasn't talking as much about our financing our own education as the number of students that we helped work their way through school at A&T. And this was a program that I started, and along with Ed Evans and Roger Leith, who is also a fellow Vietnam veteran. So we came together, Leith and I, and Ed was Roger's roommate, so that's how I met him, and started this janitorial company. And at the time, we became the first black company, janitorial company, that was cleaning the facility or maintaining the facility the size of the Greensboro Coliseum. At the time, I didn't know it and didn't know the significance of it. But a few years later, the Superdome came along, and there were some black contractors that got that contract. But so we have a significant impact in working and helping our fellow students work their way through school and some financing and everything. And initially, I want to say there's nothing really creative about providing jobs or working your way through school, because prior to the 60s and the grants and the work studies, black students always had to work their way through schools. Most students work their way through schools. But the fact that we tied this into a community scholarship that allowed students to get scholarships from Parkway for the good and the work that they did in the community with elderly, with the young people, with children, I think that was significant, because it meant that we also had an impact on the community. And so you see a number of students, both young men and young ladies, who were able to finance or alter or at least subsidize their college education by working with Parkway. And so it got us a lot of publicity favorable for not only Parkway, but also for A&T State University. And here we are with Anthony Dudley, who was our accountant at the time. And we also, this is a page that's near and dear to me, because it shows me in the student government office as president of the student body. And I'm working with Adrian Collins, and of course Ed was there discussing some of the issues with Parkway and the student plan. And Roger Leith was there. And again, Philip Arterbury. Philip is really was really near and dear to me, and he was my sort of right-hand man and strength at A&T, and kept me out of a lot of trouble and centered and grounded. But Philip also was a Vietnam, not just a Vietnam veteran, but a Vietnam hero. He received the Silver Star, he received the Purple Heart, and he was so humble. Both myself, Philip, and Roger were Vietnam veterans, but we never, only once did we try to discuss Vietnam, because at this time we were all less than 5 years. Well, Phil had come back a couple of years earlier than Roger and I, but we were less than 7 years back from the battlefields, and to focus on A&T in school, we couldn't think about Vietnam. And so that was one of the reasons I went to A&T, and that was one of the reasons, even though the three of us were veterans, we just didn't discuss it. We just kept trying to move forward. And unfortunately, Adrian and Philip are no longer with us today. And it was very, very, uh, I guess, hurtful to me the way that they allowed uh, Philip Phil to die, and with very little help from the VA. And so these are kinds of issues that still drive me today to um, want to honor Philip and make sure that other vets don't have to suffer that same fate. Here, the veterans celebrate winning the intramural football championship at A&T, and I'm on the front, and Roger's here, but all these vets back here, they just annihilated the competition that year. I think it was the fact that probably 80% of these guys were Vietnam veterans, and they just took their hostility out on whoever was across the line from them in football. And so they just won because we were winners. And I don't know. That's these two shots are really sentimental for me. But that was the February 1976 edition when Sammy Davis Jr. turned 50, and we were half that age, and we thought Sammy was old, and now we're past 50 quite a bit, and so we're old.